It's the magic. You're tuned into Today Radio. It's Drive Time with Ethan Carey, and it's a very special moment on the show. I'm joined by my very good friend, all the way from my hometown in Ireland. I haven't seen him in 8 years. 8 years. Nikola Ivanovic is sitting across from me, and the guys from Let's Talk Sport have somehow also found their way into the studio. They're always welcome. I think we're having a party here today. It's really nice.
Just like the last show.
Just,
we came in and crashed ours.
Now you're here. Why not? Why not? Well, we have Nikola across from us, who is a mixed martial artist, a fighter of many different disciplines. Nikola, how are you feeling, man?
A bit nervous, man. I feel like.
You know, he just said to me before we went on air that he's more nervous now than he was before he went for his fights. This is crazy for me, man. Well, you can relax. You can relax. We're here with Nikola Ivanovic. Nikola, how's it going, man? How is it in Luxembourg? First time in Luxembourg. You enjoying it?
It's great, man. Yeah, I love all the forestry everywhere.
Yeah, the trees. We were talking about that with your girlfriend, about there's so many trees. You guys think there's so many trees in Luxembourg?
Yeah, it's surprising actually.
That's crazy. I never noticed this, but maybe there is. I thought that in our hometown we had some trees, but I guess they cut them all down.
We used to. More. There is a lot, but compared to here, like no.
Anyway, let's get straight into it with the. I mean, you're a very unique person in the sense that I think you're maybe part of the 1% of professional fighters in the world who have actually gone into the ring and fought at high level, professional level. Let's maybe start right at the beginning for you. How did this passion or this interest in let's say self-defense, martial arts, where did it come from?
Well, you know, I always liked martial arts. Like we did Krav Maga together.
We did do that. That's true.
You know? So I always loved martial arts. I used to walk around the house like kicking the air, doing spins, all this kind of stuff from a very young age. But I originally started, was the first time was Krav Maga. The first time I went to proper classes. Then after that, I went to MMA. It was actually Michael Kretowski, him and Brandon and the boys used to do MMA in school, and they were always on to, "Oh, come to MMA, give it a try." I was like, "No." But then one day I said, "You know, I'll go give it a go." And I loved it. I just loved it. I was just like getting beat up and realizing I'm actually not that strong and tough. And then I just kept coming back, kept getting beat up, kept getting better, stuck with it. And after 6 months, I had my first fight.
After 6 months, 6 months of training,
yeah.
First fight. That was in Castlebar.
That was in Galway.
In Galway. How is that? So 6 months of training, you go in there, like your first professional fight. What's going through your mind?
Well, like I had to cut weight. So the night before I was on the treadmill, I only had to cut 1 kilo. I never done a weight cut in my life. So for me, it was a lot of stress and pressure. Cut the weight, came in the next day. Obviously, I didn't sleep either because I was nervous. Never done this before. Helped with the ring setup and all that. Got called out to fight. Walked out. Was extremely nervous. Butterflies, you know. I never done this before. And fought a guy. He was 28. I was 17 at the time.
Jesus Christ.
So,
that should be illegal. What the hell?
He was training like a year. It was good. We went to 2 rounds. He got me in a rear naked choke in the second round. And that was it. That was the first fight, you know. I dropped him twice with a jab. That was pretty cool. My coach was like, "That was great." But,
and after that, you just like you felt like the fire. Like, I want to do this. Like,
I just kept going.
Was it adrenaline? Like when you're walking into the ring. I mean, you've done many other fights since then, but in that first fight, can you remember like what was going through your head? Were you like calm, collected, or was it like I need to? What's the thought process?
Jeez, man, that was like 10 years ago now. I was very nervous, you know. I didn't know what to expect. The crowd was full, like, you know, there's like 400 people there, and I never fought in a ring in front of people ever. So, you know, I was a very shy guy, like, so for me this was a big step. You know, I just put on some violent music and I just walked out there and I was just like, you know, screw everyone. Like, that was
That's badass.
I
would like to
see. Man, it sounds like right now you're carrying a lot of empathy as a human being, but I'm guessing that you jump into the ring, the empathy goes and the adrenaline is all there, right? It's a little bit of survive. You've got someone trying to attack you and trying to take you down, choke you, knock you down, knock you unconscious, but you're trying to do the same to him. So there has to be a phenomenal amount of adrenaline going on in that mind. How do you control that and say, "Oh, I remember doing this 2 weeks ago and learning this"? I mean, how do you control that adrenaline that has to be raging through your body? I mean, I got adrenaline now just thinking,
Me too.
I got to see if I get out that door faster than Nikola can. But how do you control that? I mean, you say you're nervous, but is it not like really wanting to knock him down, take him down? Is that because there's only one objective, right? You go in that ring and you want to win.
that came later. I think the aggression. You know, I really didn't know what I was doing. I rushed into it. You know, I was like, I want to fight. I have to fight. It was all ego. It was complete ego. You know, there was no sense to it. Like, you know.
I call it balls, not ego. That's tough. I mean, I couldn't do it. Could you, Ethan? You've done the Krav Maga. I mean, I've seen this maniac on a on a cart driving. He'll take on anything. I've seen him with some running shoes on. He's pretty decent as well.
I would love to say that I could do it. I could do it after training, but I still think I would absolutely shit myself.
Yeah,
and I have huge respect for Nikola for doing this because, I mean, the psychological pressure, I mean, it's not the same thing, but, you know, I've played big shows like concerts as a musician and you walk out on stage and you have everybody there. That's already nerve-wracking. But doing that when you walk into a ring with a huge crowd and there's somebody across the way trying to kill you, that's hardcore. So full respect. I would love to say that I could do it, but I don't know, man. I really don't know.
I definitely don't think I could do it. I think it's a definite. We were talking a little bit earlier. I mean, and just how you have to go in there. Just almost like, okay, I could die in this moment. You know, I'm stepping out on a basketball court. I know I'm not gonna die. I'm gonna walk off that court, or whether win or lose. Maybe I'll have a sprained ankle, but like in your case, mentally, possibly that you could not come out of this, with your life. And so how,
in the training, is there like what fascinates me, like we talk about this adrenaline and this rush, and like, do you have to train yourself? I mean, I imagine that's a key component of the training to stay calm under extreme physical stress, and also like, I guess a lot of people maybe think that when you go in there, you see red, you just tap into this dark part of you and just go for it. But I imagine that that's actually counterproductive, because once you start kind of operating like that, you get angry and kind of make mistakes. Is that the case? Are you trying to stay as calm as possible? How is it working for you?
There's a lot of ways to look at that. You know, like the see red thing is, I used to think like that growing up too. It's like, oh, I see red and this kind of thing will come out and they'll just beat everyone up, but that's not real. You know, when push comes to shove and you're under real pressure and your life's in danger and you're under threat, you're going to go back to your highest level of training, your highest level of preparation. That includes mental and physical, So, staying calm as well is great, but you can't be too calm either. You need to have a sense of urgency in there, and you need to have a plan. I got into a lot of fights without a plan, and it never worked well. And I went into a couple of fights with a plan, and it worked really well, almost perfectly. And it's crazy how that is. And then it's up to execution of the plan. Do you do what you plan? Because once the bell goes, it's on, and it's like you're facing each other, you're in front of each other. Who strikes first? And if you get hit, does it rattle your confidence? Because a confident fighter is a dangerous fighter. You have to keep your composure all the time, be confident. And sometimes it's good to be a bit angry. Like, I get a bit angry sometimes in fights, and I find a lot more power, and I get out of very dangerous positions, and the other guy is kind of flabbergasted because he did so much work to take me down. And then I just have this absolute burst of aggression and energy, and suddenly I'm like standing back up, and he's like, what the fuck is this guy made of, And it's very disheartening for them. But obviously I'm always fighting the best guys. I never took an easy fight, and I've wanted to, even against maybe better advice from my peers or coaches, but I always wanted to fight the best guys, so I did that. And they obviously would never let me down then, they just keep going anyway because they're really good. But,
and who does that? Who organises your fights? Do you have like a camp, or your training, or people in the ring? I mean, who, your trainers?
Your coach would organise your fights. Other promoters or coaches would get in contact with your coach and ask you about the fight, and then your coach would approach you and be like, okay, are you interested?
Yeah. So how many, just to give an idea, in Dublin, how many of these camps, let's call camps, or squads, or coaches, or rings, or clubs, how many are there?
In Dublin, there's quite a few. There's quite a few. Like SBG is the big one, but a lot of people branched off and made their own kind of, names now. Jiu-Jitsu is very big. You'll find a Jiu-Jitsu gym on a lot of streets. You've got a few boxing gyms, kickboxing gyms. Muay Thai's blown up a lot as well. But MMA in general, like, you don't find as much as other combat sports. But there is a lot of choice in Dublin with very high level coaches. But where me and Ethan are from is Mayo. Like, we have no gyms in Mayo.
West of Ireland.
West of Ireland, yeah.
The shticks, as we would say.
Mayo. I just noticed Mayo from Ethan. I just noticed Mayo.
Castlebar, the great jewel of the West. But it's a nice town. It was a nice place to grow up, I think. I think it was cool. And I mean, there is, when you compare it to a capital.
Mayo's produced two fine specimens.
There you go. There you go. Let's talk a little bit about the training. So we have, we're lucky to have, 2, 3, 4, I'm not counting myself, 4 amazing athletes here. Training regimen is super important, especially for yourself over here, as a marathon runner. I'm curious, how does it work? your training regimen to stay fit for these fights? Because I think a lot of people forget how taxing this is on the body. You know, this is like if you gas out after 20 seconds, you're fucked, right? So how is it for you?
Most people only have 20 and 30 seconds, you know, because I'm sure, like any other sports people know this, you have a certain, like something I think it's called. It's like a certain liquid in your body that
Glycogen.
So
glycogen.
yeah,
Might
lasts
just throw it out there.
for a bit more. It's probably your phosphocreatine, like the sprint performance type stuff
Yeah,
that
your
you
highest
run out of
endurance
after like 10
energy.
seconds. Yeah.
So that runs out in 10, 20, 30 seconds for everybody, right? So like anybody only has 20, 30 seconds if they haven't trained, you know. So if you get in a street fight, it's not going to last over a minute usually. You know, people will be huffing and puffing after 20 seconds. But you have to push that to its limit. You know, I could hit mine to like 1-2 minutes. You know, like because you're just pushing it. You're just pushing past your limits. You know, and I think the difference between fighting and maybe competing in other sports might be like the extreme weight cuts, and then you know making the weight back, and then you're fighting a guy and he's trained to fight you. Like you know, he's watched all your content.
He's putting on. He's getting some
Mike-
content for
Mike-
his show right there.
Yeah.
Watch out for that jab that I was. He was watching out for me.
No,
No,
you're
you're all
good, you're
good.
good, you're
He was ready to stick.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue. I'm really into this.
Like it's different. Like you know, you have to do fight training. You know, a lot of people come before they go to gyms like, oh, I have to start running. I have to start hitting weights. I have to do something else before I start doing MMA. I was like, just start doing MMA. Because when you start doing MMA, you're going to throw up the first session more than likely if it's a good, strong session. Everyone does it. Like I done it. Everyone does it. You know, it's just normal. And then after that, you're going to start getting your fitness. You know, because it's a different kind of exercise. Your breathing's constantly changing. There's no steady breathing mode. You know, like you'll be steady for a while, then that guy starts putting pressure on you. Now your breathing's changed. Then you're put on the ground, and the guy's on top of you with all his body weight and crushing you and trying to punch you in the face. Your breathing's changed. You might not even be able to breathe. You know, you might get flattened against the wall. You might get thrown off the wall onto the ground. Boom! That impact knocks all the breath out of you, and you still have to fight. You have to get up. You have to survive. You know. Same thing on the feet. Like you know, you could get kicked in the head, and then you could be rattled for a bit, and then do you give up? Do you keep going? Fear comes in. Uncertainty comes in. You know, it's like, who am I in these moments? And I think, like Conor McGregor said it best, like, you know, he's like, I think it's all mental. You know, people say it's like, oh, whatever, 30-40% physical, 60% mental. He's like, I think it's 90, maybe even 100% mental. And I truly believe that now. I didn't before, but I do believe that now because, like, I don't train, like, even 2/10 as hard as I used to train back in the day. You know, I used to train, so I train like 6 hours a day sometimes, you know, 4 to 6 hours regularly every day nearly. But now I don't even do it. I'm like 15-30 minutes. But my mindset is so different now. You know, I have so much experience and I push my body so far. It's more like just upkeep now. You know, there's a lot to it.
And when it comes to like actually training for a fight, like I'm curious about this in terms of getting up your cardio, like vascular endurance. I mean, is it a case you actually have to train sparring to that level, or is it okay like long running or high intensity interval training? Will it achieve the same thing? Probably not, right? Because it's so full body when you're in a fight. Or am I wrong?
The way you've described it, it's like a middle distance runner's physiology, but on steroids, because you're relying on like a really high capacity for anaerobic glycolysis, the ability of your body to produce energy without oxygen. But at the same time, in running or in cycling, any other sport that relies on that, there's predictability of being able to get oxygen to your body. Like, it's insane. Yeah, just thinking about that. And I don't think many people actually consider, when you look at fighting, boxing, don't really consider the physiology of it, like with regard to, you know, breathing and energy production. We just think about, getting a good hit here and there. I think it's so underrepresented. It's really interesting.
It's exhausting, I imagine. But I'm also curious on how you train yourself in those moments. You know, like how you said, I agree with you on it's all mental. A lot of it's mental. But how do you train to be in those moments where, okay, you take a hit to the head or, you know, to the shin, or, you know, your ribs maybe get busted, but you have to keep on fighting. You know, you can't concede at that moment, or you don't want to concede. So how do you train to prepare for those moments? Because it's kind of like, you can't, otherwise you're going to injure yourself, but you must still need your mental capacity to be able to handle that.
Okay. Well, like, we're all built different in terms of getting punched. Like, if I hit someone in the face, or if someone hits me in the face, we're going to react completely differently with training or without training. You know, some people are just crazy. Like, you know, without any training, you punch them 10 times, 20 times, they're going to just keep going because that's just the way they are. The way they were bred, that's the way they grew up, you know? And, like, I always grew up like it's life and death. Like, There's no like, you know, if I get knocked out, that guy could kill me anywhere on the street and in the ring. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So I always remain conscious. No matter how hard I got hit, I was always remain conscious. You know, that's not the case for everybody. So it's like, I don't know how you train that, in particular about taking shots, you know, but you can train your body to be really tough. You know, I think after I did a weight cut, I cut like 8 kilos in like 5 days. I know some people cut like 20 kilos in like a month or 2 months, but that was the most I ever did, 8 kilos in 5 days. I did that twice. And I mean, like, you can't drink water, you can't eat food, you're already starving, you have to keep cutting weight. You know, you have to make weight, and then you have to fight the next day after doing this. And like, it showed me how far I can push my body. And it just broke all these perceived limits of myself. I think everyone should go through that at least once in their life to see what is actually possible, you know? Because we're amazing creatures, human beings. We're just like, we're the apex predator, you know? Like, we took over the world, and we forget that, you know? Because we live in such a comfortable environment all the time. Everything's comfortable. We're not, you know, if it's cold, we turn the heating up, you know, we can get a bus here, bus there. We don't got to run 10 miles to some place to go hunting or whatever, you know? So another thing is cold, like cold water. I love cold water, ice baths, you know, staying in there for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, you know. 15 is a bit extreme, but like, I think 7 minutes is enough, you know, if you want to really push it. And holding your breath underwater, that's the thing a lot of people don't do. They just get in the ice bath, they keep it above their head, they don't dip their head in. I think you should hold your breath in it maybe 3-4 times before you get out of the bath for like 20, 30, 40 seconds, push yourself. When I started doing that, like when I showed you that fight against Ben Bullis, like when I fought at the highest levels, like I did that coming up to that fight. That's how I prepared, with the cold water, you know, working on my breath, holding my breath. And like, I mean, like I was training myself. I didn't have a gym for 2 years.
You said you had no coach.
Nothing, man. I went there by myself to fight this guy. And that's how I prepared, you know. I still didn't beat him, but I did okay, you know. But there's a lot to it, man. You know, diet, like what you're eating, you know, super important. You can't be eating like a load of crap, but you can still get by with it. Because for some reason, like when you're training so hard, your body just transforms that to make it work, you know. Because I didn't have a great diet. You know what I mean? I started fighting at 17. I didn't know nothing about nutrition. And then I obviously started learning a lot about nutrition because I was very interested in it, because I wanted to perform better. But I ate a lot of crap, you know. But it kept me going somehow. I trained harder than I ever trained.
Mm-hmm. And talking about like the ice bath and stuff like that, it's all about building like resilience and mental toughness. I want to maybe take the conversation towards some of your fights. Is there a fight that you have done that stands out above the rest as maybe the one that you enjoyed the most, whether you won or you lost, but the one where you felt like, wow, this was like, I really enjoyed this and I really learned something? Is there one that kind of stands out?
Probably is somewhere, like, you know, a lot of them, when I think back of it, is just traumatic, really, like, you know, like, it's, but enjoyment wise, I don't know, man, to be honest. There was a few, I enjoyed a few fights, you know, in MMA. I enjoyed the striking more, like, you know, like Muay Thai, kickboxing, boxing. I had one pro Muay Thai fight. I really enjoyed that, you know, because you hit the guy and he hits you. Like, if it goes to the ground, you stand up again. You know, the guy has to stand in front of me, because I never liked grappling. I never liked grappling, you know. Even if I knocked the guy on his bum, I'd get him to stand up, because I was afraid to go to the ground. So I wasn't skilled in that. I never practiced that. I never wanted to practice that. And the only reason I was allowed to fight MMA was because I started doing grappling, because my coach said, you have to do this if you want to fight. But I had a big aversion to grappling, so, you know, I didn't really enjoy MMA that much. I enjoyed the striking more, boxing, kickboxing and all that. But I predominantly fight it in MMA, because that's just what I was doing. That's what everyone was training in the gym. That was my only option, really, you know.
If you were to like talk to guys like us who are, you know, relatively fit, like we have a certain level of fitness, but I would imagine that all of us probably we're not professional fighters, you know, we don't necessarily know that much. If there was like a crash course, like one rule that you would recommend for people like us to survive in a fight, be it on the street, be it in the ring, what is like the most important rule number one of that kind of engagement?
Pay attention, you know, like if you, I don't know, let's say if you're saying like someone comes and confronts you, let's say if you have distance and you see them coming, be very aware, like, and be aware of where their hands are. Maybe they have a weapon, you know, keep a close look on their hands. Don't let them get close to you. I think push kicks is great, like, you know, we did them in Krav Maga, thing. Like, you know, don't, you know, like say for instance someone approaches you, they're probably not going to approach you with their fists unless they're drunk or on drugs. That's just the reality of it. Nobody will come at you with their fists. You know, it just doesn't happen. A sober person won't do that. So they'll have a weapon, 100%. They want to rob you or take something from you or whatever it is they want. So keep your distance. You know, if they have a knife, just the most common tool used, unfortunately. They have to get very close to you. Your leg is quite long. You know, you hit a side kick, you hit a push kick. If you have shoes on, even if it touches the knife, you shouldn't get injured. Do you know what I mean? That's how I always think. You know, if I was getting an altercation, that's one-on-one. Obviously, if there's a group, don't let them get close to you. Run the other way, like get out of there, man. You know, like. But you have limited options. It all depends on the scenario, the environment. Do you have anything with you, like a bottle, or maybe if you're shopping with you, maybe you have a backpack on. You know. Like it depends. Like I practice with weapons as well. I have nunchucks at home, sticks, stuff like that. Like you could use anything. Could be a weapon, a glass, like anything you could use to protect yourself. So
And at the moment, in back in Ireland in Castlebar, are you working as a teacher? Are you instructing? How is it working for you now? Are you training for another fight? Is there something upcoming?
I've gotten offered 4 fights in the last month. There's actually an event on this weekend. Fighter actually asked me to fight because he can't get a match anywhere else. Like I know him, it's crazy. Like another fighter asking another fighter, can you fight me because I can't get an opponent. But I'm here, and then it's like 2 days after, so I probably won't do it. But I'm always getting offers to fight. But we don't have a gym in Castlebar. It's been 3 years since we had a gym. I'm mostly just working, training a bit at home. Sometimes I travel to train, but I've been getting awful bad skin infections the last 2 years, so I've been going through antibiotics, and it just sets me off for weeks. So it's been a bit of a bumpy road the last 2-3 years. But my last fight in MMA was in March of this year.
It brings me to another question that I think we can close the interview out on. So you just said that some of the fighters actually call you directly and say, "Hey, can we fight?" I imagine that after a fight, you actually kind of get friendly with the guy. And if it's somebody that you've already fought before, like how do you get yourself into the mental headspace? Let's say that like you two had to fight each other tomorrow. Like, how do you get into that mental headspace, like, to switch? Have you been in that situation before?
Definitely, yeah. Like, I mean, it's a sport at the end of the day. Like, you train with these guys sometimes, and then you might have to fight each other. Usually you don't. It's just a rare case, a very rare case. It shouldn't be happening at all. It's just a very rare case. But, yeah, you're usually super friendly with each other after, if you had a good fight, especially, like, I have... A lot of my fights afterwards, the guy would come follow me on Instagram and then send me a message like, "Oh, bro, that was a great fight. Thank you so much. That was great." Their coaches would message me, like, I'd message them, like, it depends on the quality of the fight, like,
And the sportsmanship of the individuals, I guess, right?
Of course, you shake hands after, like I've had one guy not shake hands with me after a fight, and I had a vendetta against him. I actually got hit by a bus 2 years after that.
Karma.
Jesus. I'll wait till you shake hands as you walk out the door, mate.
Never ever fail to shake hands with Nikola.
But usually it's very sportsmanlike, there's respect there, definitely. Like we're both training to kill each other, so there's respect, definitely.
I had one more thing. We were talking about earlier, and you said that the fighting has brought you a lot, clarity kind of in your life.
Definitely.
And I think definitely like listeners should hear, kind of how that's transformed your life.
In terms of what, like the training, what it's done for me.
What it's done for you outside, of fighting.
But like in terms of training to prepare for fights, like I had to learn to go to sleep on time. I was always an insomniac. I never slept much my whole life. But because of fighting, I had to force myself to relax, to go to bed earlier, work on my breathing, read books about sleep, eat different foods that might help me sleep, eat a bit earlier, not too late so I can get to sleep. Like not be too stressed going to sleep, maybe not play video games so late so I can get to sleep. Like I had to study intensely just for sleep. And then for nutrition, I went to like different conferences for nutrition. I used to sell nutrition products for a while. I used to like read books. I still read books on nutrition. I'm always trying out new products, reading the label. I don't count calories, any of that. I think that's kind of bullshit, to be honest with you, man.
I agree.
I just don't believe in that. But like, you get to know your body. So I got to know my body really well. Really, really well.
And Nikola, we're going to be back probably with Nikola in like 5 minutes on Let's Talk Sport. But we have to very quickly go to the news. We'll be back very, very soon.